Welcome back to Tracking That, a channel where we try to track what liberals are saying but end up not being able to as usual. So Tim Walz's military withdrawal and stolen valor allegations have gotten even worse than I could imagine. CNN did a 10-minute interview with a retired sergeant major that worked alongside Tim Walz when he was about to get deployed to Iraq, but last minute Tim Walz retired from the Army Guard because he ran for Congress. This CNN interview perfectly explains the timeline and confirms everything we've already reported. So Tim Walz received a notification of a possible deployment. They had a meeting about it. He was sergeant major at the time, and he informed his next level of leadership as a warning order that he did file to run for Congress. He informed his leadership that he didn't get the nomination and then committed to the deployment. Weeks go by, his leadership found out that he is in fact retiring, but this didn't come from him. He did in fact get the nomination to run for Congress. He went around his leadership for that, even though he already committed to the deployment and there was no backing out. It's a big deal in military to inform your leadership of changing circumstances because they relied on him to be in the team that was getting deployed. So the question was, did he rightfully retire or did he abandon his soldiers and his country when they needed him the most? Listen to what this former Minnesota Army National Guard Sergeant Major had to say that worked alongside him.
I understand, Sergeant Major. Now, thinking about that timeline, I think it's important the way you've laid it out, because it sounds as though, yes, he was entitled to retire. There was a protocol where he was supposed to go to you say, for that approval, but there was somebody he went to instead of you, which has caused some level of consternation. But in the way that he's handled how he decided to retire, I do wonder what you make of the way his retirement is being characterized now by political figures and others who are saying that somehow he has stolen valor, number one, or that his retirement was an abandonment of his duties. How do you feel about the experience that you are describing to us right now being described as political talking points?
The real thing is at the level that he held at that time, which could have been either a first sergeant, but he was conditionally promoted to command sergeant major. Mm-hmm. He knew the rules or the policies or the procedures and the manner of how to address issues going forward. If this would have been an early entry, low-level ranking individual, different story. We would have understood that, okay, he didn't understand the processes and the procedures. Tim Walz knew the processes and the procedures. He went around me and above and beyond me and went to get somebody to back him to get him out of there without, it was just a backdoor process that he handled against me or against the battalion out there.
Is your concern that it's, go ahead, but I do want to ask this question quickly, Sergeant Major, and I appreciate your time. But is your concern about the manner in which he did not speak to you or his decision to retire, which he, as we've talked about, he would have been entitled to do? Which causes the most concern? Because that is the focus that so many people are wondering about, whether he has done something wrong in service or done something personally to offend you.
He did something wrong in service. As I stated before, he knew the policies and procedures and how we go to leadership and address issues or discuss issues and concerns out there. Again, backing up, he had told me, no, I'm going forward. We're going to go with the battalion and go from there. So I'm under the believing, he told me he was going forward. I'm underneath that believing that he's going forward. He went around me, which he should have addressed it with me so he could help do some things out there. He went around me, and the fact is that there's possibility he probably would have realized I would have probably no, it's too late, you're going forward. Because we had already received our notification of sourcing. And there's one other little point out there that people say, well, he hadn't been notified yet. Yes, he had been notified. Now, there's another step out there. There's what's called stop loss. 90 days prior to the actual deployment, we received our orders. And at that time is what's called stop loss, where if you're in a position, you're going forward irregardless, unless there's some really major or process that gets you out from not going on the deployment itself. So there's that window of opportunity. And if people say we never knew he was going forward, yeah, he knew he was going forward. Had he gotten his orders yet? No, at that time he had not. As far as being a command sergeant major, he, as soon as he retired, or I'm going to go with the term retired, which he did, and he was eligible after 20 years to get a full retirement. he was taken out of the academy at that time.
Tim Walz knew the policies and procedures where you go to leadership to discuss changes to your life, discuss issues. He received a notification of sourcing of the deployment, was in a position where he really couldn't have backed out of it since he committed to it. This is incredibly damaging, and the fact that they played this on CNN, my god, I don't know what the Democrats are going to do with this man anymore. But what's also annoying is that he keeps touting the rank that he was retired as a command sergeant major. This was a conditional promotion on the condition he finishes sergeant major academy and serve additional time in service, which he did not. So that is in fact stolen valor, and he allowed journalists and himself to spew that lie that he was that rank. He also kept making the claim that he went to Afghanistan. That is also a lie. He went to Italy, a non-combat deployment. Take a listen to this interview.
Congressman Tim Walz, also a member of the Armed Services Committee and Veterans Affairs, Democrat of Minnesota, highest ranking enlisted soldier ever to serve in Congress. Enlisted in the Army National Guard at 17 and retired 24 years later as Command Sergeant Major and served with his battalion at Operating Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. And I read that.
He did not correct her. He gave her a head nod because he thought it would make him look good. He head nodded to being a command sergeant major, head nodded to going to Afghanistan. These lies never end with him, so I don't know what the Democrats are going to do with him, but let's just say that it is very damaging to their campaign, because if he goes on a debate against JD Vance actually went to Iraq. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for today's video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.